2020 is 50 years since Britain's last predecimals, and in this video snapshot we're looking at the very last predecimal farthing. The farthing, worth 1/4 of a penny, didn't make it to the end of the predecimal era. By the 1940s, inflation had seen its purchasing power reduced to the point where it was considered a pest when received in change. It took 960 of them, with a combined weight of 2.7 kilos, to make a pound. The farthing has become a byword for smallness or minuteness. One definition in the Oxford Dictionary is that a farthing means the least possible amount of something. For example, you could say, "It doesn't matter a farthing." The farthing made it into the coinage of Queen Elizabeth II, but only just. There were only 4 years issued, from 1953 to 1956, before it was discontinued, and in 1960 it was demonetised. The name farthing comes from the Old English farthing, literally a fourth part. It was a name before it was a coin. Early silver pennies had a cross as their design on the reverse, allowing them to be cut into half pennies or into farthings. Then in the year 1279, King Edward III introduced the farthing as a silver coin in its own right, but they were tiny at around 8 or 9 millimeters in diameter, and eventually it became uneconomic to produce them in silver. Some experimenting was done with copper in the early 1600s, but it wasn't until the restoration of King Charles II led to the introduction of a large copper farthing from the year 1672 onwards. The design was seated Britannia, and this became incredibly popular. In fact, Britannia would adorn the farthings of every monarch up to and including the reign of King George V. From the year 1937, the design on the farthing changed to a wren, an admirable choice since the bird embodies liveliness, industry and courage in a small package. Although it is not quite the smallest of the British birds, that distinction belongs to the goldcrest, the wren does, however, have the advantage of being regarded as a royal bird. From the year 1860, the farthing was minted in bronze and at 20.19 millimeters diameter and 2.83 grams in weight. These specifications carried it through to the end of Queen Victoria's reign, and then through those of King Edward VII, King George V, King George VI, and then the first 4 years of Queen Elizabeth II's coinage. As a coin with a small face value, the farthing was generally produced in large volumes. The fact that it had very little purchasing power led many people to accumulate them at home, meaning also that lots of them have survived. In the 20th century, the farthings of Queen Victoria, King Edward VII, and the first coins of King George V's reign were all artificially darkened to prevent people from hoarding them. Relative to their small face value, they were actually quite expensive to produce, so the last thing the mint wanted was people hoarding bright shiny new farthings the moment they were released. We can also turn to the very last farthing, that minted in 1956. Being the last year is of interest alone, however, it was also the smallest production of the 4 dates of Queen Elizabeth II's reign, and in fact it's the smallest production of any farthing for the entire 20th century, adding to the fact that it was the last coin of its kind. I hope you've enjoyed our brief look at the last farthing.